easy. Nothing easy. We're going to game 7, baby. Game 7. Game 7.
Bryce, I'm ready. Are you ready? Let's do this. Take Zaza's word and let's go.
I was like trying to find anything other than the 2 best words in sports are game 7, because I know that 3,000 tweets are going out right now with that, but I couldn't come up with anything else. And then I saw people talking about the Zaza meme and all of that. So I don't have anything. I'm excited. Like that's what we will go past all of that to directly Sunday evening. I am excited for, because as we will talk about, and you already mentioned, the Thunder got their butts kicked tonight. So we get a potential response game. You talk about legacy opportunities in games all the time. Who knows what role players are going to show up? I can't imagine what the environment's going to be like in OKC in that arena. It is truly, truly awesome. And all I hope, I do not care who wins. I don't care if the Pacers win and my prediction was completely wrong. I do not care. All I hope for is we get a banger of a game. Like, just give us a good game. No sort of blowout either way.
And by the way, man, shout out the Indiana crowd tonight too. Like you said that Oklahoma City crowd's going to be crazy. That Indiana crowd tonight looked awesome. It looked incredible. It looked like everybody was pumped to be there, was screaming, and gave them a real burst. Let's talk through this. I mean, 108-91 was the final score, but it wasn't that close. Indiana wins. It was not a 17-point game. That was a 30-point beatdown. It was 90. What was it? At the end of the third, 92 to 62.
I was gonna say it was 30 points, 90 to 60, I think.
90 to 60. You are right. It was 90 to 60 at the end of the third quarter, and just an absolute beating from the second quarter onward. Realistically, this was a 20-minute or so stretch where I think the Pacers went on, I think it was a 29-point advantage, a 29-point run. I think that the Thunder got it down to like 33-32 or so, right around the 8-minute mark of the second quarter. And then the next 20 minutes were just an epic ass kicking. An epic ass kicking by Indiana. And we'll absolutely talk about what we think happened with it. But that was an incredibly fun experience. It was an incredibly fun experience to watch what just transpired for Indiana. An unbelievable game for the Pacers.
So at 8:52 second quarter, J-Dub made the second of 2 free throws to make it 33-34, Pacers winning. And at 8:07 in the third quarter, the score, nope, let's go a little further. At 7:15 third quarter, so a little over 12 minutes of game time, right? It is now 70-42 Indiana Pacers. So that's a 27-point difference. I think that's about what you said. I will say this. I thought Indiana came out. So OKC came out, right? Built the early lead. Indiana came back with the barrage of threes in that first quarter. And I was like, man, if OKC weathers this storm, I think they're going to be okay. And they did. I think it was a 3-point game at the end of the first quarter. Yeah, and
I'm not going to lie to you. I thought at the end of the first, Oklahoma City was home. Like, I know that Indiana was up 3, but I was like, okay, they got through the storm. I really, truly thought like, okay, this is probably now going to be Oklahoma City.
Yeah, no, I'm with
getting easier shots. Like, I thought it was just like a huge barrage from Indiana that they overcame.
I agree. That's where I was. And I thought I have it in my notes here, Sam. I thought that Indiana missed a big time opportunity to extend that lead, have it big or whatever. But you know what happened to start the second quarter? TJ freaking McConnell started the second quarter. And I want to stop saying hustle plays, because I don't even think that does it just. he creates so many extra possessions. Like it is more impactful than just, because I think sometimes we think hustle plays. It's like, oh, he dove out of bounds into the crowd and it energized the crowd. And he does do that. He absolutely, he is an energy giver to, the crowd, his teammates, all of that. But I bet he had almost damn near double digit extra possession creation plays in the first half, whether it was a loose ball, a tipped offensive rebound, forced a turnover, a multitude of ways, along with the fact that OKC just can't keep him from getting to 8 feet and either getting all the way to a layup or a mid-range jumper. What an impressive performance from him that I felt like kind of got that thing going for the Pacers, and then they just never let off the gas again.
I completely agree. I think he was the thing that changed the momentum of this game when it started to look like Oklahoma City could wrangle a bit of control. I also thought that Rick Carlisle, like right at the start of what would this be? Right around the 5-minute mark, I believe, whenever Siakam came back in, went to Siakam on Jalen Williams a little bit more consistently.
Yep.
And I thought that was just a different look. That's something you've mentioned that you thought would be a really interesting idea in this series. I was like a little bit questionable about it, but you were 100% right. That really started to give J-Dub some more difficult looks, it felt like to me. But I just want to read off like TJ McConnell here.
Real quick, just to the J-Dub point, real fast. The first time I noticed it was as soon as OKC went away from the two big lineup. Whenever they took one of the bigs off the floor and brought Caruso on, I think Carlisle felt like then he could use Siakam on J-Dub and he put Nesmith on Caruso. So go ahead.
So TJ gets a steal in the first quarter against J-Dub, leads to like a wide open 3 for somebody. Can't remember off the top of my head. I was Toppin. It was Obi Toppin. TJ then, I believe, gets at the start of the second quarter. Also, like I think he forced 2 deflections and one steal.
He forced an illegal screen as well on SGA.
Forced an illegal screen. Yep. Another steal. Then he gets an offensive rebound against Isaiah Hartenstein. Then he goes in and gets another contested rebound where the ball gets to the ground against Hartenstein. It was just like moment after moment, loose ball after loose ball. This dude just found it. Every single time he was there, every single time he was aggressive. 12 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 steals, 6 for 12 from the field. It was insane. It was absolutely ridiculous. He was the guy tonight in the second quarter. It was incredible for those 6 minutes that he was on the court in the second quarter before they yanked him. Fair enough to them, right? It was unbelievable, the effort and intensity that he went.
I think what's crazy too, and the broadcast kept bringing this up, is this isn't a guy that just like comes in and like he takes crazy usage. Like his use to have a backup guard that takes the usage he does in terms of shot creation, normally for himself, but that is a huge advantage for a team. And that's what at halftime of this game, I think Shea and J-Dub had all but like 10 of the Thunder points and 6 Pacers had 8 or more points. And it was just like, it was completely different in terms of the depth of these two teams, especially on the scoring front in this game. And listen, you mentioned Obi Toppin briefly, and I don't know if we want to move off of McConnell yet. I feel like we're giving him his flowers, and rightfully so. Sam, I thought Obi Toppin was pretty good offensively. I know people will question his defense and stuff. I went back and for an outside project, I looked at Obi Toppin's offensive game throughout this series, and I was like, kind of impressed with how he's figured out how to play within this offense, run in transition, stand in the corner if I need to, knock down, catch and shoot threes, screen and rescreen and get into the short roll if I need to, go offensive rebound. Like the defense is a question and I get it, but I feel like he's really figured out offensively how to be a part of this offensive flow and really, really contribute. And he had 8 quick points tonight as well in that stretch with McConnell.
Yeah, no, I think Obi has been unbelievable. on offense in this series, like entirely in the series. Like there have been a couple games where he's been down, but 20 points tonight on 6 of 12 from the field with 4 threes, right? Going through like the game log here, 12 points in game 5, 17 in game 4, 17 in game 1, right?
Yep.
He has been utterly massive. Like, I don't even think it's a question. And I'm glad you bring up the idea of Toppin, right? As we talk through like the draft, the draft is next week. Obviously we're 6 days out. Role players, people yell at me when I talk about fit all the time. Like, oh no, you have to draft the best player available, guys. Finding the right scheme. I think the issue with a lot of people is like, they just don't necessarily like understand the scheme stuff, and that's okay. Like, I'm not watch basketball however you want to watch basketball. It's totally fine.
Well, and to be fair, it's hard to do it for 30 teams, right? Like I find myself even with some teams finding, okay, what exactly is their identity? And like I watch as much as humanly possible, and it's still 1,000%. Hard for all 30.
No, 1,000%. Like you have to take like real notes to do it.
Yes, correct.
And the thing is that like, what an amorphous board for a team, for another team, or a vacuum looks like should not be what a board looks like for any other given team, right?
Yep.
Because certain players are going to fit into schemes in different ways that might make sense. Like Obi Toppin makes drastically more sense for the Indiana Pacers than he did for the New York Knicks, because of the way that the Indiana Pacers play. They play the up-tempo style with all sorts of weird back cuts and with a spacing 5, so he can play the 4 and cut on the baseline if he wants to, and be a weapon in the corners from 3. He can obviously knock down shots. He's not as relied upon to be able to create shots. Obi Toppin has always been an elite level play finisher. That's always been the idea of how this will work, either from 3 or at the rim. And I'm so glad that he's found his home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we'll see like if he can stay there long term, because he's making a decent amount of money, and they're going to have some real financial issues here coming up. Like they're going to have to make informed choices on who they keep and who they don't keep. Right. But Obi finding this home here is exactly what the vision was for him long term. And, he goes number 8 in the draft or whatever, and doesn't really work out in New York, gets traded for a 2nd round pick that like, I think was even like not even a great 2nd round pick. And he finds his home at the end of the day. I think that that's a really important piece of kind of evaluating players across the board, pro personnel, NBA draft, anything like that. Like you got to find guys that make sense for what you do. Obi Toppin makes sense for what the Indiana Pacers do.
And they've done an incredible job. And that's what I was thinking about this. If Indiana wins this NBA Finals, instead of us saying copy that blueprint, you can't copy that specific blueprint. I think the takeaway should be find your blueprint, find what you think will work, because multitude of champions.
Bryce, honestly, forget if they win.
Yeah, like already, you're right.
Be the strategy.
Yeah. You're right. Absolutely. That's there are flowers already for that. But there's multitude of ways to win an NBA Finals with roster construction. Figure out what works for your organization within your ownership's willingness to spend and all of that, and then go identify players that fit that, right? Yes. And that's what Indiana maybe has done better than anybody. They got the stretch big. They got the 4-man in Siakam that fits perfectly with that. They have Nembhard and Nesmith can really guard. They have this guard off the bench that can have high usage. Then they have Obi Toppin, who not only can play the 4 next to a stretch big, but we're a team that wants to play fast. So Obi Toppin can play small ball 5 for us, Sam. Even in the playoffs at times, Obi Toppin can play small ball 5 for us because of our style of play. And so that's what my biggest takeaway, if I was another organization or NBA fan or whatever, would be. They are the epitome of come up with a style, hire the coach that will coach that style, and then identify players that fit that style, and don't stray from it based on talent. Just trust that those type of players will fit into what we do. And if we get it right, we can win at the highest level.
And it's all levels of basketball, by the way. Like,
Sure.
Gonzaga doesn't go get the best players
100%.
in the country. Like now sort of do. Like, Jalen Suggs and Chet Holmgren were pretty good in high school, but
Not
like,
bad. Yeah.
they identify guys that make sense for their scheme, right? Oklahoma City identifies guys that make sense for what they want to do. Indiana has identified guys that make sense for how they want to operate. You figure that out. You bring, a real synergistic top-down mentality where everybody is involved and what you want to be. And that's how you do it, right? There are different ways to make it work. You can make it work on defense with Oklahoma City. You can make it work with like a breakneck pace on offense with a great transition game and an unbelievable point guard like Tyrese Halliburton. But it has to be top-down. It has to be a real front office to the coaching staff, to the players are all aligned in terms of what we're doing. The issue here with what we're talking about, Bryce, is we're 16 minutes into this. And we have not talked about the most important part of the game to me. Indiana's defense.
Yeah.
Indiana's defense is by far the biggest story of this game to me. They were unbelievable in this game.
And here's what's funny. We just talked about this like identity. Don't you think in some ways they actually went against their identity that we've seen all year in terms of how many full court pressure possessions did we see tonight? How many pick up, like be super aggressive? They were super aggressive off the ball. They were super aggressive attacking Shea at certain times, but it wasn't necessarily this breakneck ball pressure that we had seen this team play with at times. And that's not easy to do, Sam. Like this is the biggest moment of the season. And they had to make a calculated decision to say, you know what, actually, instead of pressing up, we're going to give back a little bit at the point of attack, and then we're going to swarm from other areas and other players on the floor.
Well, we've been talking about this like kind of after every game.
Yeah.
I think we've mentioned that we think the pickup point should be lower. We think the pickup point should be lower. We'd consider going under screens on Shea and making him be a 3-point shooter, right? It was weird to me that they just started doing this in game 6. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it was a kind of an obvious choice. Oklahoma City throughout the playoffs, in the moments where they have struggled, to me at least, it has been when they have been forced into being real shooters, right? And when you really cut off the paint and make it so that they can't, at the end of the day, be able to get points at the rim and at the foul line. And tonight, if you look at the box score, Oklahoma City shoots 41% from the field, 35% from three, or 26% from three. They made 5 threes in the fourth quarter. I believe that they were 3 for 20 from three entering the fourth quarter. So that, 90 to 60 run there through the first 3 quarters. They were 3 for 20 entering the third quarter. The other thing that Indiana did tonight, and the other thing that I think doing what you're doing in terms of more collapsing the paint and having a lot of bodies there, Oklahoma City had 4 offensive rebounds tonight, despite having missed a billion shots, right? That was a huge part of game 5, was Indiana really struggling to control the defensive glass. In game 6, they completely dominated the defensive glass. I mean, again, I'm just going to note that, look at games 2 and game 3, or game 4 and 5. Hartenstein plays 21 minutes in both of those games. It felt like to me that Mark kind of gave Hartenstein a bit of a, or maybe the too big alignment, a bit of a shorter run tonight than what he has. It's really interesting though. I would imagine the reason that they did that is because they wanted the space out there. Because of the way Indiana was playing defensively, they wanted the additional offensive shooter potentially, and they didn't want the 2 bigs out there in order to make that work. But I don't know, man. I still struggle a little bit with kind of going away from what your identity is, and I think Oklahoma City at times has gone away from what its identity is. In Indiana's defensive pressure, like you said, pickup point being lower does not mean that the pressure drops. In fact, I would argue that the pressure was elite tonight across the board from everybody. They got right into everybody's grill at the point of attack, right whenever they caught the ball and tried to make a decision, if they were within 26 feet of the rim.
Yeah. And I mean, it played out on the court. Oklahoma City finished with 21 turnovers. I think I had in my notes at halftime, they had 12 and 10 of those were between Shea, Chet, and J-Dub. And I think I saw in the broadcast that the 8 turnovers for Shea tied a career high. And as we know, he didn't even play the whole game, right? Like they called it off pretty early. And so I thought they had him real frustrated. He missed some shots. I thought he was forcing. I didn't think his decision-making was happening quite fast enough. And you brought up the 2 bigs. They did not start the 2 big lineup in the second half. He went to Caruso over Hartenstein. And this is one thing when we get to what happens in game 7 conversation. I think the rotations in the lineups, quite honestly, for both teams, Sam, because you know who we didn't say play very many minutes for Indiana until late was Benedict Mathurin. Benedict Mathurin played 5 minutes, I think, until both teams got into, garbage time at the end of the game. And so I am fascinated to see. If I had to predict right now, I would guess we do not see the 2 big lineup start game 7 based on it not starting the second half tonight. And I told you this from the start. I don't know that Daigneault believes in it in this series. Like, I think if you gave him truth serum or whatever and asked, like, do you think the 2 big lineup makes sense against the Pacers? I think he would tell you no. And so
what do you think the net rating of that 2 big arrangement is this series? And this includes tonight, by the way.
So I'm assuming it can't be that much, +5.
When Chet and Isaiah Hartenstein are on the court together, they have a +12.3 net rating.
Wow.
Oklahoma City.
Wow.
Like, I get it that you don't want to go to it because you think you're going to get beaten, but I think that it makes the matchups like a little bit harder. Like, you can't put Siakam on J-Dub if both of the bigs are out there. It doesn't work. You're forced to use Nesmith on him. And Nesmith got cooked in game 6 trying to guard J-Dub. And frankly, earlier in game 5 and early in game 6, he also got cooked.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, we both love Aaron Nesmith. We've given him plenty of flowers, but he has really struggled against J-Dub in this series. He's really struggled to defend him. You know what I think is interesting? This kind of goes against, okay, well, if they're going to collapse the defense, you want to be able to space. I think part of Oklahoma City's problem is they don't have a dunker spot finisher in a lot of these situations. And so when Indiana helps, the only option is to spray to the 3-point line. And so Indiana's back line is helping super aggressive because it's like, well, you're not going to dump it down there to Case and Wallace, or like, I know those guys can finish, but the recovery is enough. Like, the best play of the night was going to be a Hartenstein short roll lob to Chet, and Chet just blew the catch. Like, Chet was pretty bad offensively tonight, just in general.
Yeah,
I thought defensively, you still saw his impact. He was just bad offensively. But I kind of find myself, there's multiple games, multiple possessions in this series, Sam, where I found myself going, man, if they had somebody in the dunker right there, man, if they had somebody in the dunker, if they had somebody cutting baseline that could really finish above the rim. And when you take the 2 big, when you're playing 1 big, they kind of take that out of the equation.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And the thing with Chet is, if Chet is the guy in the dunker, it really tends to work because he can space to the corner and he can cut baseline. Like, he's able to operate across the entirety of the baseline. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. It's you know who does that in this series and has done really well? Obi Toppin. That's what Obi Toppin does for Indiana in the half court. And to be clear, Chet has done it too.
Yeah.
Of this series for sure. But
yeah, I'm not taking it away from Chet. I'm just saying when Obi's the 4 and Turner, whatever, like Obi can, bunker spot. He can space to the corner. He can cut. He can attack the offensive boards. All of that. So
yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I mean the Indiana defense tonight was just unbelievable. I thought Turner played incredibly well.
He did.
Defense. I thought Siakam. Go ahead with Turner real quick.
I just like, and I find that really impressive because he was awful offensively as well. Yeah. Like, he was 0 of 8 at one point, I think, before he finally got a dunk on a transition or something like that. Really respect the defensive effort he gave while continuing to struggle on the offensive end.
Yeah, and I thought Siakam was everywhere.
He's so good.
I thought he was everywhere.
He's so good.
If they do win, I mean, look, like it'll depend, I guess, on what happens in game 7 on some level, but like if they win, he is probably the finals MVP. I think
so,
at this point.
I will not argue that. My only argument will be that I still believe Tyrese Halliburton has the biggest impact on whether this team wins or loses on a given night. And even tonight, I know we're 25 minutes in and we haven't talked about him.
Yeah.
He had the right mentality tonight. You could see it from the start. He went 1 for 4, but I was like, nah, he's locked in. He's taking shots. He shot up that little lefty floater. He was engaged defensively, being disruptive. To me, he's still the guy that determines whether they're going to win or lose at the highest level. Siakam has been incredible. I won't argue the production and how awesome he has been. I still think Halliburton is the most important player. And when he's in the right mindset, they have a real chance. It was a crazy performance. Here's the other thing. 23 minutes is the most important number in the box score for either team, in my opinion. Tyrese Halliburton, OKC, the best thing they could have done once the game was over was put some game pressure and force him back into the game, and they weren't able to do it. So he only had to play 23 minutes tonight, and then now he has 2 days off to do whatever he needs to do to be ready for game 7.
It's 100% right. I thought he was like 1 for 6 at one point.
It may have been.
But he got hot from 3. He drilled those 3 threes, which were huge. His ball movement tonight, like he had 5 assists, but it felt so much more impactful because he had so many hockey assists. He made so many just rapid decisions. You know, he catches and knows immediately where he's going with the ball. He kept it moving entirely. I thought he was really sharp tonight. Like, I know that was, even though he is not 100%, and like you could see it in the moments where he'd have like Hartenstein out on him and he couldn't really go anywhere. He couldn't get by him really. He still was able to kind of figure out, okay, let's use my brain. Let's read the defense out before I catch it, and let's make quick decisions that way. In transition, okay, I'm going to know where my teammates are before I catch, and then I'm going to make a quick pass to the middle of the court, and then it's going to be a hockey assist out for a corner 3, right? I thought he handled it really, really, really well. Nembhard was
really good tonight. Yeah.
I mean, look, we're going to have to talk about Shea. Shea goes for 21 points on 15 shot attempts and 8 free throws, but he has 8 turnovers. Mm-hmm. And I thought that because Indiana did such a good job of condensing the lane with like all the different things that they're doing, right? Like they're nexting ball screens from time to time and like bringing heavy help at the elbow. They are trying to, you know, at times just bring an early help man from the corner, right? With like a, you know, Siakam coming into the lane so that he doesn't get a clean look at the rim. He has to pull up from the mid range, right? Like they're giving him a lot of different looks. And then the biggest thing that they're doing is that at times Oklahoma City is trying to get him emptied out, like on one side of the court against Nembhard so that he has some space to operate and just actually read out the court. And they're just finding the perfect time to send timely doubles.
Yep.
I thought they sent timely doubles at him all night in really, really sharp ways and made it difficult for him to know exactly where the double was coming from. And he didn't read the court well enough tonight. I think that anybody that kind of says that Shea is, you know, passing has continued to improve, his ability to read the court has continued to improve. I wouldn't disagree that it's gotten better, but I do think that it is still a thing that can be taken advantage of by a sharp defense that can hold him up at the point of attack. Like Nembhard at least can like body up and make his life a little bit harder. And then if you can force him to turn and bring the double, I don't think he sees where the open man is consistently enough yet in his career.
I know people are probably going to be like, hey, Shea's averaging over 30 in this series. But man, I give Andrew Nembhard a lot of credit. Anytime he's on the floor and Shea is on the floor, he is having to guard that man. And what I really respect is he does everything he can not to get switched off of him. You know, the lack of times that TJ McConnell has gotten attacked in isolation by Shea, or Tyrese Halliburton has gotten attacked in isolation by Shea. That's not because of those guys or even schematics as much as Andrew Nembhard saying, no, I'm going to fight through this screen, and I'm going to be the guy that stays on Shea. And obviously Shea has got him because Shea is the MVP of the league. But I was really impressed with what he has been able to do, and specifically tonight. And you talk about, he's so physical, and he's been good about not getting his hands too much in there in terms of letting Shea draw fouls. I realize he's gotten almost 10 times a game, but it's all, relative to what Shea is able to do. And tonight was huge. And it's going to be awesome. This is what we talked about at the top. Now we get to see how Shea responds. Now we get to see, we've done this a couple times, right? Remember the Minnesota blowout? We felt like they tapped into something a little different defensively. Okay, well, Indiana gave OKC something a little bit different defensively with where they picked them up, how they brought help, all of that. They got 2 days to watch film. They got 2 days to figure it out. And we're going to see what Shea comes up with, what Dagnall comes up with, and if they can figure that out. So I'm really excited for that matchup within all of the other stuff that we have on Sunday.
It was interesting to me too. It felt like in the first quarter, they had like a real plan to attack like guard to guard actions, right? With Halliburton hedging, they were almost always attacking that. When TJ was on the court, like they felt like, okay, Shea's out there. We're okay if it's like a switch with TJ onto Shea. Like we just think Shea can shoot over the top of him, right? And I think TJ was really, really great in this game, and I do like want to give him his flowers. I felt like that was part of the reason that they stayed within 3, to be honest, in the first after the hot start. And then did it feel like to you they went away from it a little bit? Like maybe they just like couldn't even like really initiate, and thus they didn't have a chance to even kind of get into what they wanted to do. But I'm going to be interested to see if that ends up being a strategy, continuing to attack the small ball screen actions, or do you go, again, like do you go 2 bigs and, try and make it work that way? It's just really, really interesting to try and figure out how they're going to navigate that.
Their offense just stagnates at time. Like I don't know a better word for it other than it just, and they run some interesting stuff. They came out of the gate tonight and they ran a really interesting off ball action. Hartenstein actually screening for Chet curled off of it. And I'm like, okay, this is fun. This is cool. But then you only get that stuff after timeouts to start halves, to start quarters. And it's just then within the flow of the game, it doesn't seem like as much of that. And this is a big part of it, Sam. If you go back to our preview, and I'm sure it's not only ours, everybody's, we talked about turnovers and points conceded off of turnovers. And tonight that was very lopsided in one direction. Because one thing I wanted to ask you was, did you think the Oklahoma City defense was that bad tonight? Or do you think it was really directly related to how poor the Oklahoma City offense was tonight?
Oh, I thought it was a lot more about the offense. I didn't even think their defense was that bad tonight, to be honest. I just thought that Indiana obviously got hot from 3, and then like the turnovers just killed them.
Yeah.
Like the turnovers absolutely killed them, it felt like.
Yeah, no, I agree, because at one point I was like, okay, well, the common phrase is, defense travels. Well, it's not traveling very well tonight. And then I was like, okay, let me check myself here. And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, I don't know that this is the OKC defense as much as poor shot attempts, turnovers leading to transition, all of that. And so I was just curious where you landed on that as well.
Oh, I mean, look, like the thing is like, Oklahoma City has been like not great in the playoffs on the road. They're 5-5 now. Like they're going to finish the playoffs 5-5 on the road, which for a team that's in the finals in Game 7 that won 68 games is not ideal. Sure. Like it's just not. So they've taken care of business at home. I'm sure that if you told them in the preseason they have Game 7 at home, where they've absolutely held control this entire season. I think they lost like 7 games total all year on the at home. And what they would be, God, I mean, I'm trying to do math in my head real quick. It'd be like 8, they're like 44-7 or something at home would be my guess. Like if you told them that, you'd probably feel pretty good if you're Oklahoma City. I mean, I still I'm going to go Oklahoma City in game 7. I'm just going to ride with what I said in the preseason and in the regular season, at the end of the regular season. Like, Oklahoma City, I think still has been the best team this season, but in this series, it is dead even. And my God, was that awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I would still, I'll stay Thunder in 7. But man, it has been a lot of fun. I want to ask, okay, Indiana Pacers rotation, Sam, game 7, do they play over under 8.5 players?
The Pacers will play over 8 players, I think. Yeah, it'll be
the starters.
The starters, McConnell,
Obi.
Mathurin, Toppin. I would guess Shepherd will play a little bit at least, and they're going to have a backup big play. So I'd guess it'll be 10.
Okay. And then OKC, I don't even know if I want to go over. Like, who plays in that game? Like, I'm fascinated to see who he starts, who he plays. Like,
look, I feel like the role players have been better at home. So
that's the thing, right? Like, you just trust that. Because, I'd gone in kind of hard on Kaysen and Aaron Wiggins, and then game 5, they were awesome. And game 6, they were not. So if you're Dagnall, you just think that they're going to play better back at home. I mean, I think I would understand that. It's just, I am fascinated to see how quick of hook different players have, what sort of rotations we see. Like SGA and J-Dub, or like, are we going to get 46 minutes from those two guys? How many minutes can we get from Halliburton? Can Siakam go 45 minutes at their pace? Can Nembhard match 45 minutes of SGA if that's what he does? I mean, that's what's so cool about game 7, right? Is you have all of these things. So man, It's going to be fun.
It's going to be really fun. Do you have a pick? I said I'm taking Oklahoma City.
Yeah. No, I'll say Thunder in 7. I'm okay with you in terms of this is who I picked into the regular season, started the finals. They're at home. All the flowers to Indiana. I'm sure Pacers fans are tired of hearing me pick against them and still trying to give them credit. Yeah. But I will stay with it.
Yeah. What can you do? I hope they win. Like I've thoroughly loved this Indiana team this year. They deserve so much credit and flowers. Like they've been unbelievable. Just a really, really fun finals as much as anything. Like that's what I'm most excited about. It's been an amazing finals.
Yep. Give me a good game. That's all I care about.